Welcome to the Sisters of the Shire Podcast! Get ready to dive headfirst into the wondrous world of Middle-earth and the extraordinary mind of J.R.R. Tolkien. In this episode, we are continuing to learn about the Akallabeth, which is the section after the official Silmarillion. But if you're avoiding spoilers, like Sauron avoids sunlight, no worries. Just journey back to our first episode, or episode 0 if you're ambitious, and join us from there. Trust us, it'll be like getting your own personal Gandalf guiding you through Middle-earth.
I'm Ashley, your Silmarillion guide, and joining me is the delightful and beautiful Abigail, a wide-eyed newbie to the Silmarillion world, but still a very avid Middle-earth and Tolkien enthusiast. Mm-hmm. Together, we're on a mission to make Tolkien as easy to digest as a second breakfast feast and as fun as a Hobbit party in the Green Dragon Inn. Whether you're a seasoned Tolkien fanatic or a curious halfling, this podcast is the one for you.
So get ready to unravel the mysteries of elven genealogies, because they're super confusing, untangle the twisted timelines, and discover the brilliance of J.R.R. Tolkien. So grab your staff, polish your precious, say it with me now, precious, and embark on an unforgettable adventure through Middle-earth with us. Let's go!
Let's go! All right, so I want feedback. How do the people feel about the Chat GPT
hey
intros that we're doing?
Great.
I like it.
I put our own little spice on.
Just cheesy enough. I literally typed in like, make it cuter, make it more fun.
Thanks, robots.
Thanks, robots. So, how are you, Abby?
Oh, good. We are in a heat advisory right now.
Oh, gosh.
So I feel like I'm going crazy because my kids don't want to play outside because it's so hot outside. But I'm also like, I'm going insane with all of you inside this house. So we went out early this morning and we went berry picking because it's berry season in Oregon right now, which I'm in the Pacific Northwest. It's berries all the time.
All the time. Lots of blackberries.
Is a blessing on the budget when you have children who eat berries like they're a meal, basically. And so we could just go into our backyard and eat them instead of having to spend a small fortune at the grocery store.
Yep.
But we went out this morning and we're making jam today because we're cute little domesticated little hobbits. We're making jam.
Jamming it up.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have blackberries where you are? Mainly blackberries?
We have blackberries, raspberries, marionberries, loganberries, strawberries, and blueberries.
Wow.
So
mixed
it's
berries.
Our jam garden.
Got it.
Because everything else that I've tried to grow in my garden, I call it's a failure, basically. All the vegetables that I tried to grow decided that they don't want to live in my yard. They'd rather die a very sad death than to
need
flourish.
a Samwise Gamgee to help you out.
But the berries do great. So I just like, okay, I'm going to be a jam garden now.
Yeah. I wonder why they call it a loganberry. Because, of course, when I think of Logan, I think of Wolverine. And I'm not sure what that has to do with berries.
We have a friend who has loganberries in their yard, but they bought them because their son picked him out because his name is Logan. So he's...
Oh.
He has
They're my berries.
They're pretty good. They're like a mix between a blackberry and a raspberry. And they're...
Oh, okay.
I don't think they have thorns. I don't think...
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Nice.
Being a cute little hobbit today and making some jam. Some preserves.
Some preserves. Let's see. I'm still in... I'm calling myself... I'm a theater mom in training. So, let's see. We're on Finding Nemo now. And Lizzie is going to be a moonfish and a turtle kid. And she's very excited.
Does she get to talk like this? Hey,
yes,
Dad. What is it? What is it? That's one of my favorite
Did
things.
you see me? Did you see what I did?
That was so totally awesome, Squirt. I love it.
She really wanted to be Squirt, but didn't quite cut it. But it's funny. She was trying to do a hang loose symbol, and she must have my fingers because one of my hands, my pinkies, don't function as well as the other hand. So she was like trying to do a hang loose, and it just was not happening. And I'm like, well, king symbols are cool too.
Well, that's adorable. You'll have to send me some pictures.
Oh, I will. She's very excited. Well, Speaking of gangs, I guess.
I had a question for you about this.
Okay.
Because I think we kind of covered it, but I'm still confused.
Okay.
So we were talking about like this, it's a location question, basically.
Okay.
So we're getting into the podcast now. Sorry. We're jumping in. We're jumping straight in. When the people of Numenor bought their summer homes, built their summer homes, how far away was the building of the Tower of Barad-dûr? Is that it?
I have to try and remember how the Audible guy says it. Barad-dûr.
Barad-dûr. You have to roll your R's.
Yes, you do.
How? Could they see it from their backyard? They're like, oh, Jerry.
What an eyesore.
What an eyesore. Jerry, I think that tower's looking at me. Or they're playing like hard rock on their like portable construction radios, like all the orcs.
I love that too. Kind of like working next to a construction site. You just never know what you're gonna hear.
Yeah, like my sister, who they were building houses behind her, and all of the workers had like big speaker radio things, and the people who were like right behind her that she could hear really loudly kept playing the Russian national anthem.
But why?
I know. My sister's like, I'm feeling really patriotic.
That's hilarious. Let's see. I'm trying to find a good map. Let's see.
Okay, so you find a map and I'll try to do my best for a recap.
Okay, go.
So this last episode, or the last part of the chapter, Ashley recapped for me last episode, strangely had very glossed over areas of story, which kind of frustrated me a little bit. I don't know if he ever goes into it in any other books. Like, we just don't have, like other tales that are just not
like, you got to buy the sequel.
Yeah.
It's his way of trying to sell more
booster
books.
Pack.
Yeah.
But so the people of Numenor started moving over to Middle Earth. Not all of them, but some of them. And they started building homes, summer homes, so they can summer in the south of Middle Earth. And the people of Middle Earth, as you call them, the forgotten men, the sad ones, were like being treated even worse because they were like, the people of Numenor were like, you can pay tribute to us, like actual money, right? Like, we're better than you, so we feel like you need a subscription fee to see us. And
pretty much, yeah.
They kind of ruined that relationship, I feel.
Yeah. At first, they were super helpful and would like bring over stuff and. Yeah, and then all downhill.
Mm-hmm. And then one of the glossed over parts was there was like a war between elves and Sauron because surprise, Sauron's still here and he's been like playing the long game and getting things ready, like building an army back up of orcs and building the Tower of Barad-dûr. And he moved to the south. He doesn't like the cold, so he went to the south.
The cold did bother him anyway.
Yes.
Sorry.
And then he also built a tower too, so. And then so he's been building that, but it like glossed over like a big elf and Sauron war. It like briefly mentioned, oh, there's a one ring, and then there's like other rings that were forged that are special, but you don't need to know about those.
Right. You remember that one time? Oh, I didn't tell you about that? Well, never mind.
You just had
Too long to explain.
You just had to be there.
You had to be there. Yeah.
And then I think that's where you left off, or am I missing one last part?
Yeah, that's basically it. There was a big emphasis on the kings, though, that I want to kind of go over. So, we know Elros was the first king, but then we kind of, like you said, glossed over a few things. And then we got to meet the 13th king of Numenor, who was the first one to be like, I don't like this ban of the Valar, and I want to go to Valinor, and me. And then his son also had the same beliefs, and his name was Tar and Kalimon. And it was under his rule that the people of Numenor really started dividing. And this is kind of important for the politics of Numenor, that there are the kingsmen who don't like the Valar, just want the kingdom to just keep getting richer and richer. And then there's the Elendili, or the elf friends, who want to keep their relationship with the Valar, want to keep their relationship with the Eldar. And that's actually an unpopular opinion. So they are kind of starting to divide. And then the Kingsmen are just continuing to have that YOLO life. They just are not happy with not having an answer to what happens after they die. So they just focus on the here and now, and they want to party it up, and they want to just get all the riches that they can. And that's why they go to the south of Middle Earth and make their summer homes there. The Elendili also go to Middle Earth, but they go mainly to the northern coast because that's where Gil-galad and that settlement of elves are. And that's where they help out with a war apparently that happened.
Elrond is?
Yep. Probably like
Lindor.
Gil-galad. Or Linden, sorry, not Lindor. Linden. And then
that's where that is.
We also found out that Sauron did not like the Numenorians, especially because they took Gil-galad's side and the elf side in that war that we didn't get to hear about. And we also got some cool facts about the ring wraiths. 3 of them would eventually be Numenorian men. But that doesn't happen quite yet, but a cool little like nugget of information. And he knows that a tidbit. And he knows the Numenorians are there, and he doesn't like them. They're nearby. I mean, they're both in the south. And I sent you a map, but it might not be. It's stuck in my outbox. It looks pretty close to each other, but it looks like there is kind of maybe a mountain range dividing them. So maybe it wasn't quite as easy to see. But he wanted to because okay, I see you. I'm watching you. Yeah.
Yeah. In the movie, it feels like there's nothing there for Sam and Frodo when they go to past the tower and everything. Like, does that make sense? Like, when they're walking to the mountain and they have to pass the tower, is that in the same, like, it feels like they walk through such horrible areas before they get there. I don't see how those people would want to live there.
Well, and I had a theory about this because I'm really trying hard to make it work in my brain. That how does this at all match up with the Rings of Power thing? Like, I cannot correlate the two at all. So in my head, I'm not quite correlating the two because I'm finding it impossible. But in my head, it's not the barren, desolate, gross place yet.
Oh, okay.
In my head, because I feel like it would make more sense if it was that over time. Like, I'm not sure if I'm quite going with the whole like volcano explosion theory, or just the like Isengard theory, where Isengard method of like just slowly making the area gross over time by like overusing the resources.
And evil.
Yes. Which I feel is a lot more Tolkien like, because he was just very against the war machine and like deforestation and, you know, that whole idea. So that's in my head what happened. But there is a volcano there. That volcano, you know, Mount Doom obviously is there. So it's still possible that place is icky and gross. And they just took that area, but that's just in my head. It wasn't quite yucky yet. So he's going to stay over there in his yucky place until he has more of an army built up. But he's watching the Numenorians. He's like, I don't like you guys. I got my eye on you. But he's like, I'm going to come back when I have more people. So that's kind of where we left off things. And like, I'm trying to think of that scene in Return of the King where Pippin and Gandalf are in Gondor, and they're like they can see Mount Doom from where they are, kind of like they can see like the stuff, the kind of stuff, like the Cirith Ungol like beacon thing. So there is kind of like a mountain range dividing the two. So it's not quite like neighbors, but maybe they can see and hear stuff, but who knows.
Okay,
so picking up where we left off last week, things are going downhill fast for the Numenorians. Quote, in those days, the shadow grew deeper upon Numenor. They just keep referring it to the shadow, and it even has a capitalized S, shadow, the shadow. In fact, because of their rebelliousness, the descendants of Elros, remember, they were, you know, the people of Numenor were given extra long lives, but the descendants of Elros were given like extra long lives. Well, because of their rebelliousness, now they only get extra long lives.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And, you know,
how did
surprisingly,
that happen? It just
I have no idea. Like, maybe they just like turned down the awesomeness of like the Line of Numenor. I don't know. But
yeah,
believe it or not, that only seemed to harden their hearts against the Valar even more. Like, imagine that. Like, now we get even less. How is that helping anyone? Like, they were mad because they didn't get to live forever, and now you're making it even worse. Thanks. So we last left off with the 14th King of Numenor, but we're going to skip a few, and we're now going to meet the 20th King of Numenor. Now, I want you to pay close attention to this name. Are you ready?
Okay.
And I'm going to try not to mess this up. Ar-Adunakor.
Ar-Adunakor.
Yes. Now, that name means Lord of the West. And there's a few interesting things about this name. First off, you might have noticed it's not Tar. All the other kings had Tar, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
But this guy has Ar, which means he isn't using the Eldar language for his title like the other kings before him. He is using Ar instead, which is a royal title, but in a different language. I'll explain what language in a bit. Also, the term Lord of the West is actually a bit of a slight on the Valar because they are supposed to be known as the Lords of the West. So it's like a double burn to the Valar.
Whoa. Sick burn,
Whoa.
bro.
Shots fired. So this king would be the first to not use the Eldar language in his title because he actually forbade the use of any elven tongues on Numenor.
What?
Mm-hmm. He's like a Thingol right now. He's like, I don't want that language. So what language is his name in then? I'm glad you asked. Because that was my question.
I'm glad I did ask.
His name is actually in the official language of Numenor, which is called Aduniac, or Language of the West. It was actually derived from Elvish, but kind of morphed into its own language over time. And fun fact, it actually became what the Rohirrim and the Northmen would base their own language of Westron off of. And Westron will ultimately be so widely used in Middle-earth that it became known as the Common Speech.
Oh.
Yeah.
It makes me think of Westeros, which is what I think of when he said that word.
Uh-huh. Westron. So, anyways, this Ar-Adunacor guy forbade all Elvish language, but funny enough, he was still very wary of traditions on Numenor. So in the Scroll of Kings, he was actually given an Eldar title, which is Tar Herunemen, which also means king or lord of the West. Quote, because of ancient custom, which the kings feared to break utterly, lest evil befall.
So, okay. So he's a new name.
He has two names because he could have just gone with his Aduniac name, but he's like, because he forbade all Elvish language, but he's like, but what if something bad happens because I didn't follow the custom of having an Elvish name, so I'm just gonna have it in the writing that I had an Elvish name, but we're not gonna ever use it. But I find it funny that he was afraid of evil befalling if he broke that custom, but he's offended the Valar. He shunned the Eldar. Like, you aren't worried about the repercussions of that?
Yeah.
Quote, now this title seemed to the faithful overproud, being the title of the Valar, and their hearts were sorely tried between their loyalty to the house of Elros and their reverence of the appointed powers. But worse was yet to come.
Gasp.
So the faithful being the elf friends, the Elendili. But I love that he's like, but the worst was yet to come. Like, thanks, Tolkien, for that lovely warning of bad times a coming. You think from reading the Silmarillion, we would have figured out by now that always worse times are yet to come. Well,
Tolkien's just keeping it real, He's like,
yeah, don't get your hopes up.
Can't always have it good.
Yeah. Well, what he was referring to was the next king we're going to meet. We are now on to the 23rd king of Numenor. And I'm assuming, like his great-grandfather, I think, if I did the name thing right there, he does not use the Eldar title. And his name is Ar-Gemilzor.
Whoa, that's an intense name.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and guess what it means? So I will say that the Aduniac names are harder to translate because not a ton is known about that language because it's like morphed over time. So they're just kind of guessing what it means. But what it could mean is King Starfire.
Oh my gosh.
Kind of
That's
awesome.
the coolest. What does it say? Say it again.
Gemilzor.
Ar-Gemilzor.
Gemilzor. Gimilzor. Yeah, Gemilzor.
Whoa.
Now, with such a cool name, you would hope that he was a really cool guy, but he's kind of a jerk. Quote, He was the
No.
greatest enemy. He was the greatest enemy of the faithful. In his day, the white tree was untended and began to decline. And he forbade utterly the use of the elven tongues and punished those that welcomed the ships of Tol Eressëa that still came secretly to the west shores of the land.
So he's a jerk. Come on. Stop being jerks.
Like, how could you not tend such a pretty tree? Like, I bet it barely has to be watered or tended to at all. But he's like, nope, not gonna do it.
Because I'm a
Quote,
jerk.
because I'm a jerk. Quote, now the Elendili dwelt mostly in the western regions of Numenor, but Ar-Gamilzor commanded all that he could discover to be of this party to remove from the west and dwell in the east of the land. And there they were watched. So these Elendili elf friends, you know, they're a part of Numenor. They still love the people. They still love their island. They're still trying to be a part of the culture, but things are getting a little crazy for them in the city of Numenor, which is mainly on the east. So, you know, let's try and, you know, move out to the country where we can discuss our favorite Valar and trade elvish stories in peace, you know, without anyone getting mad at us.
Uh-huh.
But this Ar-Gamilzor guy was like, nuh-uh, I will have none of that. You guys are going to live right next to me so I can keep an eye on you. So
okay.
After they were relocated to the East Coast, they found themselves in a new city with a harbor called Romena. And they got to thinking, like, kind of sucks here right now. And we're right next to a harbor. So what should we do? So most of them...
The way to go.
So most of them end up sailing to Middle-earth to go live with their buddy Gil-galad and the other elves there on the northern coast.
The cooler elves.
The cooler elves. Now, instead of being like mad about this, like, how dare they leave my precious island, Ar-Gamilzor knew all about these Elendili leaving for Middle-earth, but he was actually like, go ahead, go. Like, I didn't really like you guys anyway. As long as you guys don't come back, we're good.
Jeez. Come on, guys. Just be nice.
Quote, for they, meaning like the king's men, desired to end all friendship between their people and the Eldar of Eressëa, whom they named the spies of the Valar, hoping to keep their deeds and their counsels hidden from the lords of the West, the Valar. But all that they did was known to Manwë, of course, and the Valar were wroth with the kings of Numenor, and gave them counsel and protection no more. And the ships of Eressëa came never again out of the sunset, and the havens of Andúnië were forlorn.
Oh.
Basically, the Kingsmen and this particular king of Numenor is like, I don't want anything to do with the Eldar. I don't want anything to do with the Valar. And the Valar are like, oh, you're going to do that? Well, we're going to cut you off. So there.
It's like when you go like, no, like when a boss is like, you're fired. And you're like, you can't fire me. I quit.
Yes.
I'm out of here.
Well, I didn't like you first.
Yeah. You can't break up with me. I'm breaking up with you.
But so it is confusing to me because as far as I can tell, every king of Numenor seems to be a descendant of Elros, but somehow Elros' descendants also are considered these lords of Andúnië, which is a harbor on the western coast and was one of actually the first cities established on Numenor. So it's like a higher up house, but we're not like king level. They're not royalty, but they're like pretty well respected.
Okay.
So these lords of Andúnië somehow... no, I haven't quite come up with an analogy for them yet, because they actually are very smart. they didn't get caught up in the rounding up of the Elendili because they were still very loyal to the kings, and their family was actually held in like the highest honor. They were even among the top counselors to the king. So they had a really good standing with the king and with the people. But, quote, yet also from the beginning, they bore a special love to the Eldar and reverence for the Valar. And as the shadow grew, they aided the faithful as they could. But for long, they did not declare themselves openly, and sought rather to amend the hearts of the lords of the scepter with wiser counsels. By the way, the term scepter is used a lot in this later chapter, or in the later part of this chapter, as like the lords of the king, like, and the scepter is just like the kingship, the crown. But I don't know why they use the scepter a lot, but so
it's confusing.
Yeah. So basically, this house of Endunier is really good at standing for what they believe in, but still on the outward being very loyal to the Numenorian and to the King's men. They're skating a line here, and
they're kind of like not choosing a side, but they're doing well with themselves for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Which, to tie it back to the show, Elendil is a descendant of that house. That's how they were like, he was like in a high standing. They kind of made it sound like he was not royalty, but kind of like aristocrat, like he was still higher up, and why they were so suspicious of him because their house was like known to have these leanings towards the Elendili.
So like, while that's why he was like could be so close to the queen and stuff,
right? And also why he knew the Eldar tongue, that he talked to Galadriel, and why he knew where to go to find all the records. And so while the Rings of Power show did not get a lot of things, they did not get a lot of things right with like the timeline, but I feel like they got the feel of Numenor very, very well with this dissension between the elves and the men, and this like suspicion of anyone who has, dealings with elves. And I feel like they got that really, really well done. I mean, criticize what you want about the timeline and it trying to correlate with the facts of the story, but the feel, I feel like they nailed really well.
Yeah, I also feel like I got the vibe that, I mean, you felt the vibe of them not loving Galadriel being there because she was an elf. But I also got the vibe of like, look at what we have done. We've done this without you. And then I think there was like a scene where Galadriel's like, but we gave this to you. And they're like, but we've done this without you being here. We're I think also there's a little bit of like nervousness, just a little bit, that they're like, they could
she's a spy,
kill us. Like they're very, very skilled to be able to like, I don't know, what's the word? Take us down. Like very,
they're a threat
easily. So I feel like they're trying to show, kind of like when smaller animals like puff up their chest. Like, they're like, no, I'm big, I'm strong. Look at me. Like, I'm
like the tiny Chihuahua barking
I'm not afraid
at
of
the
you.
huge Great Dane.
I'm not afraid of you. That's how I
say
feel.
What you will about the Rings of Power show, but
it's like,
the feel, I feel like they nailed really well, of the tension and the hidden intrigue. Because,
and I didn't know that.
Go ahead.
Going in, I didn't know that going in. I didn't know why, because I didn't know anything about like. When you mentioned this in the intro, I want to make this clear to everyone who's listening to this podcast. I am a huge Tolkien fan, but I just have never gone into the story of the Silmarillion deeply enough to like understand it. So I don't want people to think that I don't know anything. I don't want people to
sorry.
like,
and if I
that's not what I meant. No, that's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's just when I explain myself and say, when I watch The Rings of Power and they're talking about Numenor, I'm like, I don't know what that is, or I don't fully understand what, like, I've heard things before, like the Dunedain and the, just because I know the lore about, like, Aragorn and all that stuff. But I just, when I watch The Rings of Power, I'm like, I am still confused because I don't know these. And I bet a ton of people were confused who have never read the Silmarillion or the where we are now in this chapter, who really loved Tolkien like me and wanted to watch The Rings of Power, but were like, okay. Like, sure. You really had to, you know, be a avid reader to fully get The Rings of Power. Like, you've had to have read the Silmarillion and this chapter and really gone through it, you know what I mean? So it's like, I know there's a lot of people out there like me who love Tolkien, who love Lord of the Rings, who love The Hobbit, who love the lore, but still hasn't gone to that deep part of the Silmarillion and fully understand it. So now when we're going through this and we're talking about, like, oh, this is why now I can understand The Rings of Power better.
Right. And that was why we wanted to do this podcast.
Well, thank you.
Like, understanding the backstories and understanding why they don't like elves, and, you know, maybe why Gimli doesn't like elves either, or, you know, like, there's always a backstory that they kind of just wanted to put in there, but, like, the true diehards will know why, but everyone else is like, but why? So, well, that's what we're going to teach you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. So this family was very interesting, both politically, but also because there is a current lady of this family, the current, like, head of the household, that is going to have a very important role in our story. So her name is Lady Inzilbeth, and her name possibly means... Yes, Inzilbeth. Inzilbeth.
Okay.
And her name possibly means, because, again, language is a little tricky with Numenor, flower speaker is what they guess, which isn't very helpful, but cool. Inzilbeth was very much known for her beauty. Like, that was her main quality, that what she was known for. And so, you know, what was a king like our Gimilzor supposed to do when he saw her other than just marry her? Like, he surely had no choice. Like, must have her. Very much a Buttercup and Prince Humperdinck thing. This. Yes.
No, it's like a Gaston. Don't I deserve the best?
I have a Gaston later. You hold on to your Gaston analogy, because I have the Gaston perfectly cast for another guy.
From the moment that I saw... No. Met her, saw her. I love when he goes,
said,
my
she's
favorite
gorgeous,
goes,
and I fell.
She was gorgeous.
Yes.
She's gorgeous. Like, how the guy sings that part makes me laugh every time.
Yes. I love it. You know, it's not a happy marriage, especially for Inzilbeth, because she, like her family, held true to her beliefs, and she was one of the Elendili, the faithful, the elf friend, while our Gimilzor, the guy that literally, like, relocated a bunch of the Elendili because he didn't trust them, definitely did not like them. So, not a great relationship.
Okay.
Quote, no love was there between our Gimilzor and his queen, or between their sons. Because while they didn't love each other, they did have two sons who also did not love each other.
They didn't like each other, or they didn't like their parents?
They didn't like each other.
Cool.
So the eldest son, his name is Enziladun, which means flower of the west. And just like he has a similar name to his mother, he also had similar looks and, more importantly, similar beliefs to his mother. And then the younger son was
So
named
they like
Gimil
split down the middle.
Yes, they did. So the younger son was named Gimil Kad. Gimil might mean stars, but it's not very clear. But following the trend, he had a similar name to his father. It's very similar to his father, although I like how it puts, although the son might have been, quote, more proud and more willful. Like, oh, great.
Cool. He sounds fun.
Yeah.
He sounds like a class act.
Yes. Now, it would make sense that our Gimlazor, our current king, would want to hand off his crown scepter to Gimil Kad, the son who was more like him. But as he was the younger son, the laws of Numenor didn't allow it. Darn.
Darn it. And he didn't try to kill his older son like most people would happen, like that are evil like that.
Mm-hmm. So the crown scepter goes to the elder son, and it turns out that that's actually a really great decision for the people of Numenor. Maybe not for his father or the other brother, but for the people of Numenor, this would be a plus. Because in Xeladun, having similar beliefs to his mother and her family, was one of the faithful. So he was the first king in, I don't know how many kings ago, to reverse the tradition of using only a Numenor and Duniac royal title. So he would take on a royal title of the Eldar, like they did in the olden days.
Okay. So Tar
his name,
something.
Exactly, yes. So his name would be Tar Palantir, King Farsighted.
Wait.
You know that name.
I've heard that name before.
Yes. So it makes sense and it doesn't make sense with the Rings of Power show. I will keep saying that over and over again. This is the old guy that's laying in bed, the old senile king.
But
But
everybody seems to like.
That everyone seems to, no, they don't really like him. They're like, because he's in hiding. And I'll get to that more on that in a second. I'll make that connection later. But yes, if you want to picture someone, you can picture that guy. But they don't bring in the Palantir, the like stone Palantir into this as why he was farsighted. He was apparently just farsighted because he had like a gift.
He had really bad eyesight. He had really thick glasses.
Yes. Quote, for he was farsighted both in eye and in mind, and even those that hated him feared his words as those of a true seer.
So he kind of could tell the future?
Yes. But it's not necessarily a great gift because they're trying to, it's kind of like a Bruno vibe where like he just keeps telling me that all these bad things are going to happen and they all blame me. Like it's not like a benefit to anyone really. Yeah. So yeah, but you know he's using the Eldar title now where he's friendly about using the Eldar language. He does have some kind of a gift of sight, so maybe like he was gifted that from the Valar, maybe possibly, doesn't say, but I'm gonna just put that in there maybe. So we're definitely going in the right direction here. You know, he also, quote, gave peace for a while to the faithful, and he went once more at due seasons to the Hallow of Eru upon the Meneltarma, the temple of Iluvatar, which our Gimilzor, who was his father, had forsaken. The white tree he tended again with honor, and he prophesied, saying that when the tree perished, then also would the line of the kings come to its end.
Whoa.
So he's doing everything right.
Ominous.
He's taking the yes. So I imagine him having like a very like, I like how he says he tended it again with honor. Like he has a special watering can that he uses. He has a very strict schedule because, you know, that tree's health has a lot riding on it. Like, oh no, I forgot to water it. Oh no, the kings are going to be dead.
Yeah. Like one leaf falls and he's like, no.
But, all these changes are great things for Numenor. Surely, we're getting on the right path here. The Valar should be happy with that. The Eldar, maybe they'll come back and, start visiting again and all will be well. Right? Right?
No. No.
No. No. Quote, but his repentance was too late to appease the anger of the Valar with the insolence of his fathers, of which the greater part of his people did not repent.
See, sometimes I don't agree with that. Like, why should the child be, what is it? Why should the child be
judged by the sins of the father?
Yeah, no, be like condemned or something from the sins of the father, something like that. Yeah, I don't get that. That doesn't. Well, that makes me sad.
I feel like they might have forgiven them, but it sounds like the greater part of his. So, like, the majority of the people aren't following Tar Palantir. They're not like, yeah, we're on board to change our ways. They're like, nah, we like the way we're doing things.
Yeah.
So before, their king was like the leader of the king's men. So they had like a rallying cry to all not like the Valar. But now with a king being one of the Elendili, who is going to lead the king's men? Because they're not diminishing. If anything, they're sticking around. Well, remember that younger brother of Tar Palantir, the one who was like his father, Argimilzor, but worse?
He's probably a real jerk.
Yeah. Well, he's still around. Quote, and Gimilcad was strong and ungentle, and he took the leadership of those that had been called the king's men, and opposed the will of his brother as openly as he dared, and yet more in secret. Thus the days of Tar Palantir became darkened with grief, and he would spend much of his time in the west, whence he gazed westward in yearning, hoping to see, maybe, some sail upon the sea. But no ship came ever again from the west to Numenor, and Tol Eressëa was veiled in cloud.
Oh no.
It just breaks my heart thinking of the... Yeah. Well, not only the jerk brother, but just the trend is, even though Tar Palantir is doing everything right, it's not enough to make up for it. And it's not enough to turn the tide. But this heartbreaking scene, because of course the only visualization I have for Tar Palantir is the old scene on that in the bed. So I just imagine this frail, sad old man who keeps looking out the window, just hoping he will see a ship come from Tol Eressëa that might have the Elder on it. Like, maybe this time? No? Okay.
Okay.
Because I was thinking about this. Who knows if he has even seen the Eldar? I think, according to the timelines, they stopped coming by the time he was born. So he might have only heard about them from stories from his family. So maybe he had kind of a romanticized view of them and kind of idolized these mysterious strangers.
That makes it even more sad and pathetic.
I know! Yeah. I don't know why, but yeah, the visualization of that old man.
Him waiting up
for Santa or something.
What is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Toodles from Hook.
Oh my gosh, that works too. Lost, lost, lost.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, while that is a heartbreaking scene, I'm sure you won't be heartbroken to learn that jerkface Gimilcad died. Which is kind of odd because he died at the age of 100.
Ugly name, so
I know. He died at the age of 198, which was actually considered an early death, especially for one of Elros's bloodline, even with their extra long lives not being extra long lives anymore. Which is kind of surprising because I was sure that there was about to be a kinslaying on Numenor or that Tar Palantir was going to die of mysterious circumstances. But, I was wrong. But,
mysterious circumstances of a knife in his back,
Yeah. I don't know how that got there. So weird.
It has a name on it. Well, it's a mystery.
But either way, this has to be only good for Tar Palantir. The leader of his opposition, the Kingsmen, is gone. So, things are going to get better again, right? Right?
Never.
Never. Quote, for Pharazôn, son of Gimilcad, had become a man yet more restless and eager for wealth and power than his father. He had fared often abroad as a leader in the wars that the Númenóreans made then in the coastlands of Middle-earth, seeking to extend their dominion over men. And thus he had won great renown as a captain, both by land and by sea. Therefore, when he came back to Númenor, hearing of his father's death, the hearts of the people were turned to him, for he brought with him great wealth, and was for the time free in his giving.
Wasn't he a character on this Rings of Power show? Didn't we get to see that?
Yes. He's the one that has like the most sway with the men of Númenor. He was the kind of like politician guy, which kind of works, but it also doesn't work, and you'll find out why later. But yeah, that he had this like sway with the people, and was kind of in the know about all of the murmurings and goings on in Númenor. That kind of fits. But it's going to go off here in a minute. But I do want to say, this is where my comparison of Gaston comes in. And I have more like the live action version, because, excuse my Disney nerding out here for a second, but I'm not sure if you knew, but there's like this theory.
I will never.
That there's this theory that, not theory, but like explanation of, why would these people of this town trust this jerk, conceited guy, Gaston, over this nice, beautiful girl, Belle? Well, if you had a leader of the military that, fought for your country, fought for your town, protected your town, you would kind of put your trust in him. Like, oh yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. He's trustworthy, right? Well, that's kind of what happened with Pharazôn. He fought for his people. He, had military experience. He had leadership experience. And so even though he's a jerkface, son of a jerkface, he still had like the street cred to back it up because of all the wars that he's fought in.
You jerkface, son of a jerkface.
And of course, we don't get any details on these wars in Middle-earth, but later we're going to find out that it could possibly have been with Sauron, but it's very unclear. So, as for Tar Palantir, and again, we're not even close to the Rings of Power timeline here, so just, you can use the visual of the guy, but that whole story is not anywhere close. Because he is just so depressed and sad for the wrong choices his people have made that he, quote, grew weary of grief and died.
Oh, sad.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, he didn't have a son waiting in the wings like his brother did. But he did have a daughter. And the daughter is the one from the show. Who had
really cool armor in the show.
Yes. And so, like in the show, her name is Muriel, which I love the meaning of her name, given that she's like the only daughter. It means jewel daughter. Like, aww, that's so sweet.
That is cute.
Now, we haven't really talked a lot about this because Tolkien skipped over a lot of Númenorian history, but the laws in Númenor did allow for women to be queens, which is pretty darn cool for an ancient civilization to do because that did not happen very often.
Mm-hmm.
Slay queen. With her Slay queen. So with her father's death, Muriel was next in line to be queen. And she was actually going to be the fourth queen of Númenor. There had been three other queens before her. So it wasn't like a new thing, just maybe not, I think we're on like 24 kings. So cool, but not unheard of that a queen would be a thing. Yes. He just glossed over it because thanks, Tolkien. But she might have been a great queen of Númenor if there wasn't a jerkface son of a jerkface around.
Oh, man. Those are the worst.
Mm-hmm. Because we're going to go way off the show here. Not even close to the show. I'm trying to figure out how they're going to reach back to this point, because this differs greatly from the show. Quote, but Pharazôn took her to wife, Muriel, against her will, doing evil in this, and evil also in that the laws of Numenor did not permit the marriage, even in the royal house, of those more nearly akin than cousins in the second degree. So you can't marry your cousin. You can marry your second cousin, but no closer than second cousins. So with him marrying his cousin, no.
Yeah, gross.
Gross. And when they were wedded, he, Pharazôn, seized the scepter, the crown, into his own hand, taking the title of Ar-Pharazôn, and the name of his queen he changed to...
So he went back to the Numenor name.
Mm-hmm. Good catch. And the name of his queen he changed to Ar-Zimrafel.
Isn't that his...
cousin?
Isn't that close to, like... Isn't that his, like, grandma? No.
Cousin.
What was his grandma's name? Cousin.
So this is... Tar Palantir is Muriel's dad. Tar Palantir's brother, jerkface, son of a jerkface, was Gimil Khad, and this is Pharazôn was his son.
I know, but what is Tar Palantir's mom's name?
Oh, Linzabeth.
Okay.
Lots
I thought it sounded similar to another name we had heard.
Yeah. And, it's not very clear. Pharazôn means like gold, and he did give himself an elvish name, which I find interesting. So his elvish one is Tar Kallion, which has something to do with like shining bright or brilliance or something, but also around the idea of gold. And then Muriel's title, Ar-Zimrafel, also possibly means, jewel daughter, but again, it's hard to say. But so, yeah, Pharazôn sees no other way of gaining power than forcing his own cousin to marry him and to take her magical power scepter away from her. I find it funny that they use the term scepter. Like, it's just a stick. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I hold the stick!
But it's a magical stick. Yeah. It's my turn to talk.
Yeah. But like you said, he went back to the Aduniac titles, which kind of tells you which way he's leaning. But I do find it interesting that he had both. He wasn't quite like full on no Elvish ever, but yeah.
But he also had to give us an Elvish name. Sounded like he was also still such a jerk.
Right. Tar Muriel is what Muriel's Eldar title would be, so that's also kind of convenient, because that's kind of what she's more remembered as, is Tar Muriel. But this Pharazôn guy, quote, the mightiest and proudest was our Pharazôn, the Golden, of all those that had wielded the scepter of the Sea Kings since the foundation of Numenor.
So, is he officially king? Or did they... I thought their marriage wasn't legal.
It's not, but if you're the king, you can change whatever you want.
Ooh.
Uh-huh. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm wondering how Rings of Power is going to circle back to this happening. Like, I could kind of see that Pharazôn would just take her as queen, but then they have the whole, like, Elendil, like, romance kind of hinting there, too. So I have no idea how they're going to circle back to this, but... Basically, our Pharazôn is the jerkiest jerk of all the kings of Numenor, which is saying something because our Pharazôn is now the 24th king of Numenor. I mean, that's quite a line of jerks. So, good for you, Pharazôn. You're the jerkiest jerk. Quote, and sitting upon his carven throne in the city of Armenelos, in the glory of his power, he brooded darkly, thinking of war. For he had learned in Middle-earth of the strength of the realm of Sauron, and of his hatred of Westerness, which is Numenor. And now there came to him the masters of ships and captains returning out of the east, and they reported that Sauron was putting forth his might, since our Pharazôn had gone back from Middle-earth, and he was pressing down upon the cities by the coasts. And he had taken now the title of King of Men, and declared his purpose to drive the Númenóreans into the sea, and destroy even Numenor, if that might be.
More Sauron is saying this?
Mm-hmm. But I find it funny, that these trickles of news is coming to our Farazan on Numenor. Are the captains of these ships having gossip sessions with Sauron or with his orcs about Sauron's life dreams? You know what? I think I would really like to be the king of men. And you know what? I'd really like to, my next plan is to drive the Númenóreans into the sea. Yeah. And then if they still bug me, then I'll destroy Numenor. But that's just my life goals. So I'm just going to, maybe they found his dream diary
he has a dream board.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He has a dream board. He has a dream board.
Yeah.
I'm putting it out in the universe. This is going to happen someday.
Manifest your dreams, people.
Yeah.
But either way, when our Farazan found out about Sauron's life dreams dream board, he was not happy with the news. Quote, great was the anger
how we found
of
out the
our
news.
Farazan.
They took his dream board. And that's how he got the news, is they brought back his dream board. He's like, what is this? What? Oh my God.
It's scribbled in crayon,
inspirational.
One. Be called king of
It has
men. 2.
Inspirational quotes.
Yeah. You can
it's
do
a little drawn picture of him with a little crown on. He has a little
and the king of the men holding him up.
Yeah. Woo! We love you. You're the best.
You're the best. I love it. Quote, great was the anger of our Farazan at these findings, and as he pondered long in secret, his heart was filled with the desire of power unbounded and the sole dominion of his will. And he determined, without counsel of the Valar or the aid of any wisdom but his own, that the title of King of Men he would himself claim, and would compel Sauron to become his vassal and his servant. For in his pride he deemed that no king should ever rise so mighty as to vie with the heir of Elendil.
Whoa, he's got high hopes too.
Mm-hmm. But I love that he's no man can, compete with the heir of Elendil. Do you know Elendil very well? Because he kind of sucked. The guy that abandoned his wife and children, he didn't even come close to making up for it by sailing to Valinor to get help from the Valar. He might have killed a dragon with his ship, but that's about the pinnacle of his awesomeness. But, whatever.
He is a star now.
He is a star.
Does he have posters of him in his room? He has posters of him in his room of inspiration.
Yes, you can too be a star one day.
Someday.
Yes, or it's Kylo Ren
just
talking
ruin
to
your family. I was thinking the exact same thing.
Talking to the helmet of Darth Vader. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Quote, therefore, he began in that time.
But I love Kylo Ren. Do not compare him with that jerk again.
I'm just saying. Therefore, he began in that time to smithy great hoard of weapons, and many ships of war he built, and stored with them his arms. And when all was made ready, he himself set sail with his host into the east.
So that guy himself, he's putting his actions, his words into actions. Mm-hmm. He's not sending other people to do it. He's actually doing it.
No, he's not a Morgoth. He's leading it himself.
Okay.
And that's actually where
I'll
I'm
give
going to
him
leave
that,
you today.
at least.
Yeah.
I didn't get good vibes from that guy off of Rings of Power anyway, so.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. The shadows are brewing.
So, dang. I just really want a little cartoon. Someone out there in the universe who's listening to this, please draw up a little cartoon version of Morgoth's plan, his dream board of what
Sauron.
he wants to do.
Sauron,
I mean. His dream board of, and it's like in crayon, and his like little stick figure him with like a little crown on, and he's like, I'm the king of men, and then
it's like all the men like Sauron's the greatest.
Whoa, and then it's like, I love you, marry me. And he's like, oh my gosh, you guys, stop it.
And it's like, take out those pesky Numenorians and then have them with like horns and like mustaches and stuff.
He has like a little, it's like next to his dream board's like next to a little desk, and he has a little mug that says like #1 boss on it that he got from his orcs. And
Middle Earth's best boss.
He's got like his little blueprints. Yeah, his little blueprints for his tower he's building.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love this. All right, internet, make it happen. Make it happen, internet.
Come on, please. I want to see it.
Follow us on Instagram at Sisters of the Shire Podcast. Become a patron and join our Patreon at patreon.com/Sisters of the Shire Podcast. And speaking of that, we have a new one.
I know. I was going to say we got a new friend.
Yeah. So his name is Tom, and apparently he's the one that was dominating for the Netherlands, dominating other countries. So, I mean, get it, Tom. World domination. Go for it.
Yes.
Try and beat the U.S. I dare you.
The only time we'll allow
USA. But he sent us this really, really nice message, and he even translated our names into Quenya, which I'm like, man.
That's some work.
I like tried figuring out how he did it, and I just eventually like, how did you do this? And he's like, so I looked up your name. So Ashley means ash tree meadow in like Old English, and Abby's means father's joy in Hebrew. So he made Quenya names based off of those like root words, and so he got Farne Laire for my name and Atar Alase for your name.
Beautiful.
Yes,
I'll take it.
Thank you so much, Tom. We love it. And yeah, you can join Tom and Dan and Chrishane as our friends of the Shire. And then please rate us on whatever platform you listen to your podcasts on. We got a new one on Spotify. Thank you for whoever rated us.
Share with your friends.
Yeah.
We're family friendly. I haven't said it yet, but thanks for teaching me today.
You're welcome. Until next week, I've been Ashley.
And I'm Abby. And thanks for listening to the Sisters of the Shire podcast. And we hope you join us next time. Bye.
Bye.